Hello and welcome to the Sideline Live podcast. My name is Orla Keeling and I am the host of the podcast, where every week we bring you a brand new episode with guests ranging from Olympic champions to local heroes, coaches, support staff and anybody involved in the world of sport. Each week we will dive into different topics, including current affairs in sport, identity, skill, mindset, coaching, and also shine a light on those flying under the radar. So tune in for brand new episodes, new stories, and new insights you've never heard before. This episode is proudly sponsored by Sport Expo Ireland. Taking place at the Sport Ireland campus on April 21st and 22nd, 2027, attendees will hear from leading voices in sport, take part in interactive workshops and masterclasses. To learn more and register your interest, visit sportexpo.ie, which is linked in the description of the episode. Now, let's hear from today's guest. Deadly, I think we're recording. Okay, delighted to welcome back Adam Drummond. Adam, you're on the flip side now. 4 years ago, you interviewed a load of Superleague coaches. Now you are a Superleague coach. How does it feel?
It's a weird one. I was only thinking about it this morning, and it's the same room, it's the same laptop and everything. I think it was Danny Adrian Fulton.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a long road since then. I honestly, if you asked me then 3-4 years ago, would I be coaching Neptune in 3-4 years time, I would have said no, and I would have laughed at you. But look, that's where life's a weird thing, and it takes you to many different places, and situations. So happy to be here on this side of it. A bit more nervous. I was a bit more relaxed when I was asking the questions. Now I have to answer them. So
You've kind of done a bit of an apprenticeship though since then. You've been coaching a number of different teams
yeah.
around Cork and Dublin.
Yeah, I guess my coaching journey started when I was actually still in Dunleary in the National Rehab Hospital. Paul Keller came to visit me there, and he was like, "Look, whenever you want to get into coaching, you can give me a hand." So it didn't take me long. I wanted to stay involved with Neptune as much as I could, so I helped him out with the 20s that year. So I was an assistant coach for the Neptune's under 20s that year. And then the following year, I jumped straight into head coaching the Neptune's 20s. So I think I'm going into my fifth year of coaching now, maybe my sixth. It's my fifth. Then I spent 2 years with Neptune's 20s head coach, and then I spent a year up in Dublin, and I coached the UCD college teams, men's and women's, and then I gave Giannis a hand as an assistant in video really more than anything else, and scout. Between then as well, I helped with Paul with the Super League team that year. We got to a cup semi, and there's been a lot of different teams, a lot of different people, a lot of different coaches to work with, but learnings through all of them. Different each coach and teams, they all have different backgrounds and stories. So I was delighted to get out of Neptune that year, to be honest with you. Not in a bad sense, but to kind of get out of my comfort zone more than anything else. And I learned loads from Giannis, and I learned loads from the players that I was coaching. And it's the same with Paul as well. So, and Paul's been great for me as a mentor, really, in coaching. To have him still involved in Neptune is great. So, yeah, different experiences the last couple of years, you could say that.
What have you picked up from the other coaches when you were serving as assistants?
Each coach is different. Each coach has a different personality. They have a different view on the game. I'll be honest, I've learned things that I like and I use today, and I've learned things I didn't like, and that's just me, disagreeing in a different way how to coach or how not to coach. But I think that's what coaching is like. If I decided I wanted to be Paul Keller and just be him, how am I testing myself? I'm not being original. I'm not being unique. I tried to break down how coaches do things, and then take my own viewpoint on it and put my own touch on it. So, yeah, they've been great, to be honest with you. Two kind of different coaches in a way, but two very, very established, well experienced, well respected coaches, that have coached in the Super League. So I'll be trying to take that and put it into Neptune this upcoming season.
Mm. I think it was a conversation on the podcast or with someone else. Everything just kind of morphs into one at this point, Adam. But we were talking about the importance of not only knowing what you want in terms of what you'd like to take from other people, but actually realizing or recognizing, oh, I don't want to do it that way. It's certainly
Hmm.
as important to kind of figure out what you do and don't want to do.
It's so important because there'll be a lot of, especially being a young coach, like it's kind of like, I guess this person's older, so it has to be right, or this person has done it. Basketball's been coached this way for 30 years. I have to keep doing it that way, and it's not. That's not how it works. The game's meant to develop as long with coaching's meant to develop. And those older coaches as well are doing the same. They're constantly trying to change and constantly trying to learn the new ways. So, I guess being a younger coach, that can be difficult in terms of like, this is the way it's meant to be done. And it's like, no, like, you can broaden your horizons and you can, and it's okay to make, probably the biggest thing that I've come to learn is that like it's okay to make mistakes as well. The fact that I'm starting so young is that like the Adam of 27 years old isn't going to be the same coach as Adam who's 57 or 67 years old. Like it's going to be a totally different coach then. But yeah, it's okay. It's important to take the good things and the stuff you want to bring into your coaching. But then it's also okay to say, I don't agree with that. I think I can do it differently. Not so much better, but I want to try it differently. And if that doesn't work out, then you could try another way, and you can always fall back to the way you learned or you were taught. Like so, I think it's important to kind of just to have your own touch on things. Because at the end of the day, that's going to be appreciated by players, and you don't want to be the same as kind of every other coach, and you want to keep it new and you want to keep it fresh. So it's okay to say no. I don't want to do it that way. I'm going to do it a different way.
Mm. How have you found that? Like you mentioned, being a young coach, being around peers that are very similar in age or maybe slightly younger or sometimes older. How have you found coaching them being a young coach?
Uh, Being honest, like I've been very lucky. The players and I've coached that are around my age. I guess I think it's more kind of kudos to them, to be honest with you, to give me the chance and give me the platform and the respect to coach them because I always think like if I was still playing able-bodied basketball, how would I kind of reacted to or treated a coach that was my age? And to be honest, I would have struggled. I would have totally struggled, and it would have been difficult. But I guess for me, it's about kind of setting the boundaries of like the atom in between the four lines or in Neptune or in the gym is different to when we're not live or when we're outside in Neptune, and it's trying to find those boundaries, and it has been difficult. It has been difficult at times, but again, I've been lucky to have been able to coach and be around players that have given me that platform. And I guess the hardest part is, having those difficult conversations, and that's something I think I've probably most improved on the last 12 months of, being honest with guys and being having difficult conversations and how to do it, and learning that like you can't coach every player the same. And like that was probably something I probably grew up in the old kind of style of coaching, is everyone gets treated the same, and I kind of disagree with that to a sense. I think like we're human. We're going to treat people differently, and we're always going to try and treat people well and and give them the respect. But it's like, for example, like, in Neptune, how I speak to Sean McCarthy in a training session is going to be different. How do I speak to Ryan Downey? Because, I could probably or get on another player, I don't know, like a Neil Sabata. I can go after Neil Sabata, but then it's how I'd go after someone else because Neil is great and he'll just smile back at you. But how I go after someone else or I get on someone else will be totally different. It might be a case of like, putting the arm around the shoulder and saying, "Come here, I want to say something to you." And then some fellas you just need to light a fire under them. So and then that's what I mean when they are your peers and you're saying I'm 27 and I'm turning around to a 31-year-old Neil Sabata and giving out to him. I think it's kudos to him that he's not looking at me going, "Who are you? I have more experience than you." So There has been times, there has been a couple. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that I haven't had a couple of arguments with fellas and they haven't responded in that way. But for the most part, I would say 99%. Um, Everyone's been great in that sense. But look, there's learnings out of that as well when someone bites back, and I always have to ask myself, how would I treat a coach? And I need to be realistic about that. So if someone does challenge me, I need to say I would have been that guy who would have been challenging coaches as well, my age. So. It's about setting the boundaries and then having the kind of the balance of it, really.
Mm. How was your college course influence? Because you did, was it sport and exercise science and management in
Yeah,
college? How has that influenced
yeah.
your coaching and approach?
Oh, Jesus, like a really, I've been very lucky in that sense as well. That I did 4 years out in MTU. Um, that I spent a lot of time around some great coaches, and the biggest thing for me is that my coaching expanded beyond basketball and I was able to learn about different sports and how different coaches in different sports approach things. And there's some great coaches out there, Ed Collin, Con Burns and Sam German and Alan Dunton, like they're all great, great, great teachers. Many more that I probably forgot, but they challenged me and they knew I was on my coaching journey. Probably nobody else was in the course at that time. And like I was put in my spot multiple times where I thought I was the big man and I knew the answers, and then they would challenge me back, and I didn't have answers or probably the whole way through, but I guess between third and fourth year, I guess I kind of started to click then, and I started to find what way I wanted to coach and how I wanted to coach, and you know, I think I was very, very lucky in that sense. I probably did that course because I was just kind of like, oh, I like sports, why don't I do this? But it ended up being something so much bigger for me, and in the long run, that in a session now this morning, we had a shooting session in Neptune, and it's like thinking back of like what did Alan Dunton say to me in this session, and I need to continuously trust that. Like so, I've been very, very privileged that my coaching went outside basketball, to be honest.
Brilliant. I love asking people if you could be a fly on the wall with any team or coach for a week, who would you just love to watch and learn from?
Uh, mm, I'd probably the obvious one would probably be Joe Mazzulla. I'd say I wonder, is it all a show, like the kind of the interviews, but I don't think it is, to be honest. I'm a Liverpool fan, so I love Klopp as well. And then I watch a lot of soccer, so it would be Pep and things like that. So probably Mazzulla. If I had to pick one, I would probably go Mazzulla. He's a nut job, like so. I'd love to see that.
That'd be very interesting. I was expecting maybe
Yeah,
Steve
it
Kerr,
would
Bob
be.
McKillop. You've met Bob a couple of times, have you?
I met Bob a good few times. They recruited me when I was 15, 16. But the first time I met Bob was in Davidson. And so Paul, I went over with Paul, and Paul was like, he's gonna do this, just be ready for it. And I was kind of like, what? I was like, what? So I met him, shook his hand, and he said, look at the banners up there. And I looked at the banners, and he just gave me a more or less a smack into the right, into the arm. And I was just kind of like, what is this like? And then he was just like, looked at me in the eyes and was like, yeah, I like you. And then that was it. And then started talking. Like, so I was just, I kind of smiled, laughed back at him, back at him. But no, Bob was great. Like, I had many, many phone calls with Bob, and the stories he told about Steph and Mike Bree, Connor Grace. Like, it was, he had stories for days. Like, but again, like, he's kind of on the older side of coaches, and his son is actually coaching now, which is kind
Yes.
of cool to see. Matt, and but the time I did spend with him, like he was just nuts. But then his knowledge of the game was second to none. Remembering games, like he'd go back and say, Mike's game in the second half of the season, and what might have been in the 2000s. I could be wrong here now, when Mike did play there. But he had like what Mike scored and what was the score, what team they were playing against, and at the time this was a 70-year-old man, like, and I'm just like, if I'm in any way, shape, or form, like him, when I'm his age, I'll be doing well.
Yeah. Give us a Steph story. Was there anything that he told you that stood out?
I'd say it was the first game, really, the one that he struggled with. I think he was like 1 for 9 or 1 for 10 in the first half. And this was just this 6'1", 6'2" scrawny kid, coming in, and I think Bob just lit a fire under him, at halftime, like, and I think he came out in the second half and obviously finished with 30 or something like that. But like just telling the stories how we recruited him and he had no other offers, and he's saying that he kind of took a chance on him because he was Del Curry's son and like knew that there was something in there. But like seeing the photos of Steph when he first went into the Davidson like was off the wall. Like he was a child. Like and yeah, Bob said this like he was like a little child, and he said he knew he was taking a risk. Like, but geez, that risk paid out.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone could foresee what he would turn into, even Steph himself, but
No, I
that's
doubt it.
pretty
I
cool.
doubt it. But
Yeah.
no, it was a great place.
How was your journey when you going to America shaped, your approach to basketball and coaching? Did that change the way you thought about the game a bit?
Yeah, 100%. I guess America was probably uh, ups and downs for me, to being honest with you. I went over there knowing I kind of had a knee issue. Probably in my last year in Ireland. I knew I started to have a kind of really, really bad case of jumper's knee. Like, so when I went over there, I'm not making excuses. I wasn't able to kind of reach physically the heights I kind of wanted to get to and give as much as I could. Like, I remember my first or second game of prep school, like, and it was just knee pain, and ended up getting the scan, like, and seeing that I needed to get surgery, like, so. It was difficult because I worked so hard to get to this point, and then when you get to that point, your body's kind of breaking down essentially, like, and then when you go to prep year and you have 1 year, you literally 1 year to or 25 games, 25 games to prove that you belong here. So I'm still very lucky to be able to go to Taft. Met some great people, great coaching, and Coach Byrne are there. And in that year, I really learned that you have to love the game. And he was his man where we were in the gym, in the mornings, 3, 4, 5 mornings, 6, 7 a.m. And I love that. I do love that. And I realized that, I wasn't doing that since the age of 15, 16. And I guess that's a thing in Ireland really where we don't have the facilities and we don't have the opportunity and resources to be able to do that. Like, it's hard for some kids to get into a gym on a Wednesday night on a good day
Yeah.
to mind at 6 a.m. Like, so, but I was lucky in Neptune's sense, but it went up a level again when you get there. So there was a part of me of like, geez, I wish I was doing this since I was 15, 16 and see where I was then. But I learned a lot of Coach Bernie, the Princeton offense, and he kind of the shot clock as well. The 30-second shot clock was a change for me. Something that I hate, and I'll be on record in saying that I absolutely hated that about American basketball. I think it's absolutely stupid. Um, but no, Taft was great, and then obviously I went to play Division 3 basketball at Dickinson. And then that was again I pushed off the knee surgery. Was like, look, I'll do one more year. I'll try to rehab it, and it was fine. I had a good freshman year. We had a good freshman year, and then got the knee surgery, and then obviously, with D3 basketball, it's difficult because there isn't really a redshirt
Okay.
opportunity in D3 basketball. So I got the surgery in, I want to say, May. Um, and then obviously it's probably like a 6, 7, 8 month recovery, like torn patella tendon, and I had
Ooh.
chip shin bone as well. And like, the season starts in October, and it was kind of like, all right, look, I only have 4 years of this, um, or 3 years left. I was like, I'm not going to sit out a year. So I went back probably a lot earlier than I should. And it was more probably mentally, to be honest with you. And then when you don't, when you don't reach that level, then I learned a lot about myself in the mental side of basketball that season. I ended up coming home around COVID time and not going back. So, I guess I came home a bit confused about basketball, and I had the plan going over of, you're going to do your prep, you're going to play Division 1 basketball, you're going to play 4 years, you're going to come back and play pro basketball, and for the first time in my life, the road became windy, um, which I kind of learned about myself then in terms of mentally and the mental side of basketball. So I guess America brought me loads of friends, it brought me loads of opportunities, but again, I kind of grew up a bit quicker, and realized that it's all not sunshine and rainbows over there. It's not, you know it is difficult. It is a commitment. You have to love the game. At that time, but now I guess every second player in their locally team is going to the States nowadays. So We have a problem now is that there's too many players going that way and not enough of them staying. So, no, but I had a great time. I met a lot of people, cool experiences, and I wouldn't change any of it, to be honest.
I think that's come up a lot. Obviously, a lot of the interviews I do, if people don't know, are with Irish players that go to America, and they say it. It's the same things that come up. You have to love the game. You have to, and
Mhm.
even your piece around realizing I should have been 15, 16 in the gym from
Yeah,
6 a.m. And I've spoken to so many guests around. What can we do here? It's like shooting.
yeah,
What's in your control? Get really good at that because. And I love that analogy. Instead of you thinking it's a straight road when you go to America, you kind of figure there's a couple of windy paths you kind of need to figure
hmm
out. And
yeah,
it's just, and as you say, we've lots of kids going now. You think it's too many. It's like what a complaint to say there's too many kids pursuing
yeah,
basketball
yeah,
abroad.
yeah.
But for someone listening, whether it's a parent or a coach or a child that has someone or is someone looking to go abroad, what advice would you give them?
Um, I would always say have your plan B. Have your plan ready to go. If it does, one, if it doesn't happen, you don't end up going, and you have the CEO filled out, and you have your plan here to stay, and you have to be grateful for that plan too. I think when I was preparing to go, like it was America or nothing, and I was like didn't even think about it, and you know, kind of looked down on like I don't want to play here. I want to go to the States. I'm better than that, and it's like no, like it's there's been a lot of good players not go to the States and men's and women's basketball like and have carved out professional basketball careers like and played in the Super League and it is possible here. But my probably advice is again like that road gets a lot windy when you get over there and you're probably promised and you're told, look, this is what's going to happen, and you're going to be given this and this opportunity, and that doesn't happen. I've been in a grateful scenario where, that was promised to me at Taft, and I was given a great opportunity to play 35 minutes a game. But then I've heard a lot of guys, and they go to the high end prep schools and they're sitting down, for 38 minutes of the game. And if games are shorter over there in high school, like so it's to have your options open, have the plan B, and then have the plan ready for when you go do a one and done year. Because there's part when I say I wouldn't change anything, I wish I was probably more accepting of being able to come home after 1 year, and go to college here and live life here and play for Neptune. And I think with from when I went compared to now, like the Super League is an actual professional league now. Um, I think it's something to be proud of playing, and it's tough to it's a really tough league now. Um, but again, I guess it kind of goes back to the point of our us as clubs doing enough to give these players an option to stay in Ireland. That's another conversation in itself.
Mm. When you mentioned the Super League evolving, I'm
Mhm.
interested in how it has evolved. You say it's now, it's totally different. Like, give us an insight for those that don't know. What's the difference now?
I guess the exposure of it, to be honest. I think social media does have a lot to do with that. Every game is available. I played in Europeans that weren't on YouTube. That's how old I am now, to be honest. Um, but again, like those kind of things, like the Super League is available. Like, I know it's behind BITV, but it's accessible to make film and tape and things like that. Like when I was 16, 17, 18, like the only game film I had was the cup finals and cup semi-finals. And I know that sounds, cocky or privileged, but that was the case. They were the only times I was able to take stuff. And I actually when I was talking to Division One programs before I went to the States, they wouldn't even watch like Irish basketball. They would only look at the Irish, like the European stuff. I think there's a lot more coaches willing now to look at Adam Charles's Super League. That's for an example. Adam Charles playing for Aon in the Super League and his highlights. I think that's something that's respectable now, compared to you know 10 years ago. And I guess I played in the National League, so again, maybe if I played in the Super League, it might have been a
Okay.
bit different.
Yeah.
Um, but again, I just think it's growing the platform, social media, and the exposure. I think, teenagers have a lot more opportunity to get their stuff out there now. But again, I guess it's a lot harder now at NIL to play college basketball, and I think that's why, yes, it's harder for kids to go to the States, but I think now is an opportunity for Basketball Ireland and clubs in Ireland to give these guys a platform to work with universities and see if their scholarships available and housing available for these guys to be taken care of on this side as well.
Mm. You mentioned, and I meant to bring it up a bit earlier than now, but just your underage success with Neptune, like you went for like
Yeah.
on a roll a couple of years. Like what did the club and the people in the club and the coaches do to cultivate that experience and culture around?
Oh, jeez, I say it. Look, I think it was just a golden era as well when you really think about it. Like, outside of myself, there was Jenkins, the two Sullivans, Keane Heath, the two Heathys, um, Liam, who's passed, and David Murray, and like when you think about it as well, like the two Hannigans were there, who are two Super League Super League experienced players now who've won trophies at Super League level. Like it's just it's madness to be honest. And I don't know if it'll ever be seen again. To be honest, I've had these debates. I try not to get into these debates, and but I'd be firmly on to believe like that we were the best underage side. When I mean keyword underage side to play in Ireland. Just in the fact of like we won the 18s, 20s. We came back the next year, did the same thing, and won the President's Cup as well. Where me and Jenkins both started in that final. So look, I think it's down to like Noel Allen, who's a well-known name in Cork basketball and Irish basketball. Like I think he had his say, he had his touch on all of us. Um, his influence on all of us growing up. And then as it got through, then we had different coaches, and we finally got to Paul then at that age, and Paul kind of brought all three teams, the 18s, 20s, and the senior team together, like, and we were 3 nights a week where we were 16, 17 competing against, men every night, like, and I think that really, really stood to us in the long run. But I guess that time of Neptune was a very exciting time, but when you break it down, then how many of us are still wearing a Neptune jersey? None. Like out of that group, and there's a couple. There's still a couple come and go. Have come and go. Like the two Sullivans have come and go in between. But again, like there's Neptune gets a lot of flack, and Neptune gets, why isn't Neptune successful? And I think there's a lot of things that need to be factored in, and not to make excuses. And I'm not. I'm just looking at the past couple of years. Why? Um, it would be great if we still had Sean Jenkins playing for Neptune. It would be great, if Keane, if he wasn't injured and he was still playing, and the two Hannigans were playing for Neptune. But look, again, that's just the way life goes, and people end up in different places. We can't really look too far into the past, but it was a cool time. It was a really cool time, exciting time. Probably a time we took for granted, to be honest. We probably got too used to it, and then when the trophy stopped coming, then it was a bit like, what's this about? But hopefully we can get back to that,
Uh,
back to that again.
do you pick up the phone to the Hannigans and to Sean when you get the Neptune job, or what do you do with that?
No, I try not to be honest with you. Look, they're my friends, and I'd be lying if we don't have conversations of, would we be able to do this down the line, and will this happen down the line? But look, I guess this year is too soon. I think it's too soon for all of us, and I can't speak for them, and I'm not trying to get them in trouble now either. But
I think I'm
I
stirring
think
the pot there, so I apologize, lads.
I think it's something that I would like to see happen down the line.
Yeah,
Will it happen? I have no clue.
yeah,
I have absolutely no clue. But I'd like to leave it on record that I would like to see it happen.
yeah. I think it'll add an extra dynamic to the games next season, or the
I
upcoming
know.
season. Yeah.
I'd say we'll like, geez, like they're some of my best friends, like and we talk a good bit. Like James is down to my house probably once a week, twice a week, like, and we spoke about like what are we gonna do when it's game week, like, how we gonna manage that, like, so we said we'll put our phones on do not disturb for each other, and maybe just block each other for the week, and then once the game is over, then, well, it depends who wins. Once the game is over, then we'll unblock each other or whatever. But no, it's cool. Like, that's the thing. Like, it's going to be a bit of a surreal experience in that sense. To be on the other sideline, and making scouts, like, for these fellas that I grew up playing with.
Mm.
So if anything, I should probably know them best.
The loser can buy the pints or the coffees.
I probably, yeah. Jesus, telling you.
Uh,
Would love getting them
uh,
to play for something.
Yeah. What does basketball mean to you now, Adam? Just, everything you've been through, you're so involved in the sport to this day. What
Yeah.
does the sport mean to you?
It's helped me through a lot of tough times, to be honest with you. And I've probably or younger and probably before, my accident and stuff, I probably took basketball as my be end all and end all. And I've learned, especially in the last 12 to 18 months, that this is just a game. It'll always ever just be a game. And I've tried to use it as a positive outlet as much as possible. I was offered the Neptune job this time last year, and I wasn't ready mentally. I wasn't really ready mentally, and I think it was a this conversation I had with my family and stuff that you know this Super League commitment can get hard, and is basketball your be and all too much. So I had to work on it. I had to work on myself and come to the realization that basketball needs to be a positive outlet for me. And I need to use it as kind of a stress reliever than anything else. So I've learned to kind of pick my days where I can commit, and then there's some days I can't. But I think basketball in itself has given open so many doors for me, doors that I didn't think that would be available. I've learned about myself as a person. The social side of it. My best friends are in basketball. My best friends are over Neptune. And I guess when I was younger as well, I think being obsessed with the game, kind of got me out, kept me away from the street and kept me away from, doing those kind of things younger. I wanted to be in Neptune. I wanted to be there all the time. And I kind of didn't have many distractions out of that. So I guess, basketball has evolved for me the past couple of years, and I look at it different now, especially playing wheelchair basketball. And I was very lucky in that sense that I had a sport that transitioned to my disability, um, and it gave me that outlet straight away again. So it's been something in my life that has helped me through a lot of tough times. But I have to watch myself then at times where I don't get too invested, and I don't let it affect my moods and affect my how I treat people at home and things like that. So, I guess that's going to be some learning as well. Throughout this year, and Super League is going to be another jump again. But again, I'm aware of it. I'm conscious of it. And I'll continue to try and develop it really.
Yeah. Were you coaching underage wheelchair Irish team? Was it under 20s or something?
Yeah, so I tried coaching the wheelchair basketball as much as possible, but I'd be honest, I don't know much about that game.
Okay.
I'd be perfectly honest. I get given out to a lot by the wheelers, like because like I often say this, that like wheelchair basketball is 70% wheelchair skills and 30% basketball. They'd probably fight me and say it's the other way around, but um I had no interest in the wheelchair skills part. All I want to do is just play the basketball side of it, chase after the ball. So there's a lot more to it than that. But yeah, I coached a bit. I try and help with the shooting side of it, and the basketball and the skill side of it. It's a cool game. I'd love to see more crossover between able-bodied clubs and wheelchair basketball clubs. I think both sides can benefit from it,
Mm.
not just the wheelchair side. Um, so I'd love to see that side more, but yeah, my coaching stint of wheelchair basketball was very short. I hope my able body one is a lot longer, to be honest.
Uh, does the sport get the recognition and the support it deserves?
No, I wouldn't say so. I think funding is a big issue, and we struggle with that. I would love there to be more funding. I think there's a lot of top class athletes currently in wheelchair basketball. But again, I look at it and say, like, is there enough funding? Is there enough development there for the kids that are between 8 and 15, 16? That's what worries me. And I just feel as if there's constantly going to be a limit on wheelchair basketball in Ireland. We look at the argument is when it comes to funding in Ireland, like, oh, is it a Paralympic sport? Well, no, it's not. But why isn't it a Paralympic sport? Should be the question.
Mm.
But again, it comes back to funding. A lot of guys, like a lot of teams, are only training once a week. With the wheelers, we were lucky. We went 2, 3 times a week, because we had enough volunteers, and there's not enough volunteers in the sport. There's not, and so that's why I would like to see a bit more crossover in between clubs. Leicester do it well. Um, Galway Titans are involved as well. Limerick Celtics don't have a wheelchair basketball team anymore.
Okay.
But again, it's hard then as well as there are enough participants and that there's that argument. So look, I think funding is a tricky one. Yes, we're not a Paralympic sport, but again, why aren't we? I think that constantly needs to be asked the question, and it can be a bigger, even bigger outlet to a lot more people with disabilities.
Yeah, that's a good point in terms of flipping it on its head. Why
Yeah.
aren't we there? That's a really good point. I should have mentioned it earlier again, but the success of Rebel Wheelers, how many, six in a row, seven in a row now?
It was seven, I think. I don't know. I forgot. I think I was only there for four of them anyway. But they were winning before I came. So I can't take much credit there, to be honest. I think it's seven.
Wow, seven is some number. But you went on the European stage last summer, was
Yeah,
it?
yeah. So with the club, we went to Euro Cup last year in Italy, and then we hosted it this year then in Glanmire, which was fantastic, to be honest with you. It was an unbelievable experience. There was a team from Portugal, Greece, Netherlands, and the UK. Reading Rockets came over, and that's just not being done, on the able body side as well. Like, so it was a really cool experience. Great crowds came, and but again, like we played four games that weekend, and they were the four most competitive games we'll have all season.
Okay.
So it's hard for us to kind of get that game time, and like our best competition comes in training, like so. But again, look, that's we're kind of a fault of our own success as well. We can't really do anything about that. And so we went to Bulgaria last year with the Irish team, playing the C division. um, we came fifth, like, but we were kicking ourselves. We felt as if we were a top two team, but again, we kind of put it down to like, were we playing enough high level basketball throughout the year,
Okay.
and enough competition? And the answer was no. To be straight up about it, but look, they were cool experiences. For me, I was probably 50-50 into both wheelchair basketball and coaching. I obviously made the decision this year to, put more eggs in the coaching basket. I'm not going to stop playing for the Wheelers, but I kind of wanted to get off the fence and give one my all. So I think it was a tough decision, but I think it was the right one, to be honest.
Okay. But you still be playing, just not
Still
maybe at a
playing,
high
yeah.
level.
If they love me, yeah. If they love me,
I think MVP. I think you'll be fine. They'll
I
take
don't
you
know.
back.
I'd say they'd have a different answer.
Um, you spoke previously on a number of podcasts, and just your attitude towards, what you've been through is just so commendable. Just the strength it has. I remember you were talking about if you have a bad day, you never let it become 2 days, and
Yeah,
that was so inspiring. And I remember you speaking as well about, I think somebody, a family friend, came into you and they said, "Look, everything's going to be all right." And you said, "I'd love to do that for someone else." Just, I know that maybe the coaching on the court didn't go maybe as well with the wheelchair side of things, but how do you find interacting with younger people and people that are new to the
yeah,
sport?
100%. Like, and I learned very quickly that how important the Rebel Wheelers was, because you were surrounded by people who were in the same or worse situations.
Mm.
And those problems or those challenges were left at the door. There was no sympathy. There was no, for me, this is going on in my life now, or this is wrong with me physically or health. It was cool. It was cool to kind of to have that outlet, because, like, like any person with disability, like, you're surrounded by able-bodied people 95% of your week. To have that 10 to 15% where someone's also in a wheelchair, someone's also going through the same things, it was absolutely huge. But I guess, look, I've had my ups and downs. Like, I guess when I first came out, I think when I first came out of hospital, everything was new, everything was different. I actually was kind of, a bit oblivious to it, and saying like, "Oh, look, this is just an injury now. You'll be fine in a year or two." And then that 2 years came, and my physical situation was still the same. So I guess I probably had a bit of a dip. I have committed to, in the last, 14 months, of, my mental health side of things, and keeping it day by day, and then not trying to let those bad days fester. learning for me, I guess, in the last 12 months, what are good outlets and what are bad outlets. And trying to avoid escapism and being in the moment and being something. Gratitude was something I struggled with for a long time, and being grateful for my situation. I guess when I got to those lows, it was poor me, poor Adam. And I guess no, like I need to flip it on the other side and say, you should be dead. Do you know what I mean?
God.
What happened and what the situation that happened is that, like, not many people get out of it, and not many people get through a spinal cord injury. Or my spine break could have been higher up. So it's being grateful that I am still able to do these things, have a job, have a relationship, being able to drive, being able to coach Neptune basketball Super League team. I think they were things, and probably in the last 12 months, that I had to stop and say, your life, you need to be more grateful for your life. So there's been ups and downs, but it's about finding the neutral, finding the middle part. And I think, getting too high is just as dangerous as getting too low, because the drop off of the too highs can be damning. So it's finding that middle part, staying in that middle part, being okay with going and getting low and being able to sit with yourself and coming back up to that neutral side. And then when you get too high, is like, come here, come back down here now. You know. So I think finding that neutral part has been good for me in the last couple of months.
Mm. Am I right in thinking Adrian O'Sullivan became a good outlet with the gym? He was
Yes,
pushing you
Jesus.
hard. My God.
Yeah, he was pushing me hard. He was pushing me hard. I learned a lot there, and that was an outlet. And I guess it was just having a friend in that sense as well. Like, Adrian's fantastic. And I was able to go to a place that, wasn't Neptune, wasn't a basketball gym,
Yeah.
and being able to exercise. And Adrian's been fantastic in that sense. He can't go out anymore though. He moved his gym upstairs, so he said he wouldn't lift me up the stairs. So you can take that out of him. But no, I still talk to Adrian every day, to be honest with you. And I get out to I work out in MTU Arena where they play their Super League games. So I don't know how much longer I'll be able to do that now, because they'll probably say it's I'm spying on them.
Tampering.
Yeah, I'll have to change gyms, I'd say.
That's a good point. I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
One of the things as well with Neptune, just that I've noticed, and a lot of basketball clubs have done it, but I've just see it very regularly with Neptune, just the inclusion piece.
Yeah.
So some brilliant work going on there. Just tell us a bit about that.
Unbelievable. So I got introduced to inclusion basketball by a woman called Teresa Tarrant. So I was invited over in BI. They were hosting an inclusion camp when I was doing my college in Dublin. And she was telling me about Temple Oaks inclusion team, and she's got it going. And I said, look, I'll come over on a Friday. Like, coming over on one Friday turned into 9 months of every single Friday going up the M50 from Blackrock up to Old Bawn. Like, but it was the best decision I ever made. It was absolutely unbelievable, the people I met. And it puts it into perspective, to be honest. And I'm an informed believer, and I'm probably throwing BI under the bus here now, that every Super League team should have an inclusion team. I think there's no reason why not. And I think it's in today's day and age, with more kids being diagnosed, I think there needs to be more outlets. And I can't say how much, joy, how much I got out of it. To mind the kids, how much I got out of it, of just 1 hour a week. You know, rebounding for these guys, chatting to them. Like, some of them don't even want to play basketball. They just want to chat to you, and that's fine too. And the conversations I had, were I got more out of it than them. But Neptune, I've been involved with Neptune's one, and Kev Deneen and Ian O'Brien are doing fantastic things with that, and the Neptune side of it, hosting tournaments. And I think that there's probably, I would ballpark, between 10 clubs now, maybe less, in
Okay.
in Ireland. Like, how many basketball clubs are there? Over
Yeah.
100. Like, that's a low percentage. So I would love to see them start with Super League clubs and say, fine, you can pay this much for a Super League program. Can we pay a margin of that to run an inclusion once a week?
Yeah.
I'd love to see that initiative start. And I know there's a lot more that goes into it than just deciding that, but I just think I can't, recommend it enough of that. Like, it's not just one-way traffic of like we're giving our time. Like, what I get out of it is the best hour of my week, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Amazing. Yeah, I think, and I've said this so many times on the podcast, and I'm not biased because I love basketball, but I just think basketball is a sport for life, but for everyone.
Yeah. Hmm.
And that you can be involved in any way you can. And it's great to see loads of GA clubs now doing their all-star and inclusion initiatives. But for basketball, there's just so many roles you can be part of, and
Yeah.
there's space for everyone.
There has to be. There has to be a place for everyone. And I just look. I think I'm biased because I love them. I love the Temple side of it, and I love the Neptune side of it. But I think people have to go experience it. That, like, it's not just all about, can Neptune win a Super League trophy and things like, there's more to basketball than that. There really is, especially with clubs of this size. I would love to see other clubs follow it. And I know Aina and Vincent's are fantastic at it as well. Just wanting more and more clubs to give it a go. And yes, it can be probably a time out of people's weeks, but you'll get that time back. Trust me, it's
Mm,
only an hour.
mm. I ring you in a year's time. You're 1 year into the job. What would you like to
Oh,
achieve
geez.
this time, 12 months?
Yeah, yeah, I hope so. That's the plan anyway. Looking forward to it. Look forward to getting going. But trying to stay in the process, trying to enjoy the process and keep it in the day. And once October, that first weekend of October comes, it's going to be chaotic. So trying to enjoy the kind of the slowness of it all now, but it's coming around quick.
Yeah. Have you started looking anywhere else, bar Neptune, as in surveying other stuff? Is it too early or?
Look, you'll be lying if you say you didn't. Like, you'll see other teams signing this player and signing that player, but something that I'm trying to install this year is that we worry about what's inside our four walls. I think when we fix that and we become successful, then we can start looking at other clubs. But no, like, we take, inspiration from other clubs and how other clubs do it and how where success has come from in the Super League in the last couple of years. But at this time in July, in the start of August, I think it's about what's inside our four walls. I think when September comes around and those preseason games start, you'll get a good inkling of what way teams are setting up. But look, you hear of Irish players moving to this club and that club, and teams will be better, teams might be actually weaker or less deep. So we're lucky in the sense that we've added Sean McCarthy this year, and Roy's back for the full season now, and he's in great shape. So and there's a lot of I'll say, I don't want to speak for him, but the Irish guys that last year want to change things, and they're they're motivated to turn this around. Like, so. But look, it's my job then as well that it's a slow build, and we're not peaking in October. We want to peak in January and April, or January and March. So
Okay.
um, trying to slow them down a small bit, but then also keep lighting the fire.
Yeah, fair, fair. Well, look, that's exciting. There's a bit of a preview there for people. I'm going to wrap up the episode with the sideline seven. Adam, I'm going to ask you for your favorite quote. Is there something that stands out to you?
You caught me in the hop here now. Favorite quote. Well, I heard one the other day now. Oh, you prepare for war and peace. That's my
Okay,
favorite quote. Yeah.
very good. Who said
You
that?
prepare. I think it was Michael Beasley in some podcast. I love it though. I love it.
Brilliant. We'll go with that one.
Absolutely love it.
Question two: best sporting event you've been to?
Best sporting event I've been to. Um, I don't know. I'd be biased to say Anfield. I love Anfield. I'm a big Liverpool supporter. So, not last season though. I was at a few games last year, and it wasn't the greatest sporting spectacle I've ever seen. But I was there. I was there. We won the league a couple of times. That would have been the
Nice.
best spectacle. Or else, I from my youth anyway, probably last time Neptune won the cup a long time ago in 2013. So, that one as well, I'd say.
Nice. Any particular standouts as a player? What comes to mind?
What favorite player?
No, is it sorry, your favorite
Oh,
sporting
as
event as a
playing.
player? Yeah.
Probably just European Championships, I'd say. I think I played against a good few NBA players when I did get to the States, and Cole Anthony was one,
Oh
playing with the
wow.
Bucks now. I played an AAU game against him, and just the level how I thought how good I thought I was compared to an NBA player was I was quickly realized that I had a long way to go. So fair play to CJ Fulton who's more or less an NBA player coming from Ireland. So yeah, I had a quick realization that I wasn't at Cole Anthony's level. You could
Yeah.
say that.
Could you see it at that early age how good he was? Like, I'm not saying predicting he was going to be an NBA player, but you could just be like, this fella is nuts.
I want to say yeah, like, but he was tiny, like, and
Yeah.
the size I see him now. I saw him last year, like, and he's 6'3", 6'2", 6'3", like, and I guess when I was 18, he would have been 14, 15. And he was tiny, like, and I was
Mm,
like, I knew, look, he had all the intangibles, he had all the skills, but I was just like, if he doesn't grow, he's not probably not gonna go anywhere. But he did grow, and he did really well for himself, and those skills stuck to him.
yeah.
But no, I'd be lying if I said he was going to be as good as he was when I saw him when he was 14 or 15.
Fair. I think was it last summer, you were playing for Ireland back in Bulgaria. And struck me
Yeah,
just the post you shared just 10 years on from being, you were
yeah.
15, was it you were 15 or
I guess
16
I would
there?
have been that would have been my second Europeans. It would have been the under 16 with Paul. It would have been Jenkins, and Keane Heafy and Oisin O'Reilly, that team. But I played in Bulgaria that year, and then 10 years later, I'm playing wheelchair basketball. It was a bittersweet moment, in a way. But like they're the kind of things that you have to know, and you have to be proud of yourself, really. And say like, look, life throws you a lot of things, but here you are, still playing basketball into that country for your country.
Yeah.
That was a cool moment for me, a bit of a bittersweet moment.
Mm. Question three, the biggest setback or challenge so far in your career, and how did you react to it?
Um, Probably not being like, able-bodied, probably basketball being taken away from me. I guess that would have been the biggest setback. Luckily I had, Paul visit me in Dunleary that time, in the hospital, and you know, offer out that, stay involved with Neptune, and continue the coaching. So I guess it was a setback. I probably didn't I like being honest, I probably didn't enjoy coaching probably the first year, 2 years. Um, but again, with anything, it takes time, and I was probably playing able-bodied sports. I'd pick up something and I'd be good at it. It was probably the first time in my career or my sporting career that I started coaching or I started wheelchair basketball, and I wasn't automatically good at it. It took time, and it took a lot of, tough sessions, tough games, a lot of mistakes on both coaching and wheelchair basketball, but it brought out a different kind of, competitiveness in me too as well. That some things do take time, and it's not just going to be click your fingers and you're going to be good at something and you're going to see results. And I guess that kind of something I'll probably be trying to bring into Neptune as well. That, like, you know, we need to love the process. We need to enjoy the process, and we're not going to click our fingers. And this is going to be this one big fairy tale that I'm coaching, and Roy's back, and we're adding Sean, and we're going to win trophies. That's not how it works. It's going to be a process. It's going to take time, and we have to be realistic with our goals. But again, we have a chance, and we'll work towards it. But yeah, I'd say that's the biggest setback. But again, it's all about learning about your setbacks and what do you learn from it. And I guess that's what I learned. That you need to love the grind. You need to love being in the trenches and being in the lows just as much as you love going up collecting trophies and getting accolades. So yeah, that's something I've learned probably
Wow.
since
Yeah.
I stopped playing able body basketball.
Yeah. Question four, your biggest achievement in or outside of sport.
Um, I would say probably graduating with a master's, to be honest with you. And if you ask anyone that was in secondary school with me, like, they would have said I was the last fella to get a level 9 master's from UCD. Like, so, I would say that the education side, and it's something when I came back from the States is of like, oh crap, I need to start taking this serious here now. Um, and it's something I had to knuckle down and get over the line. And but yeah, I would say the education side of it, I was just obsessed with basketball. So and education has opened up so many doors for me now. And I try to stay involved in as much as I can. and learning and stuff like that. So I would probably say, yeah, biggest achievement would be that. I probably have more, but that's the one that comes to mind anyway.
Okay. Question 5, advice to your 18-year-old self.
Be ready. Be ready. There's a hell of a life ahead of you. It's not. It keeps going back to the analogy of it's not. It's a windy road. My road was very straight until 18, and I guess from 18 on, it started to get windy. A couple of roundabouts in there. But just be ready and be in the moment. Enjoy the process, and it's not. And something I would say is things aren't as big as they are in your head. And that side, and buy into the mental side of health a bit earlier as well.
Question 6, dream dinner guest and why?
Yes. Jesus, these are tough questions. I would have liked if you sent me these
So,
beforehand.
have you not listened to this podcast yet, Adam?
Yeah,
Like,
I
you should
know,
know this.
I know, but I thought you'd give me a pass. Dream dinner guest. I'd probably say. I'd actually probably say my granddad. I never got to meet my granddad Eddie. And I would say that, to be honest. Could say famous people. I could say that, but I don't know. That's a man I've only ever heard stories about. So I would probably say him.
Okay, brilliant. Final question before I let you go. If your life was a book, what chapter would this be called?
Uh, New beginnings.
New
Yeah,
beginnings.
that would be a new one. Yeah.
Nice one. We'll wrap it on that. Adam, thanks for your time and best luck next season.
Thank you. I'll need it. Thank you.
And that is it for today's episode of the Sideline Live podcast. A huge thank you to our guest for sharing their story, insights, and experiences with you, the audience. If you did enjoy the episode, please do leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, as it does help the show grow. If you are interested in more content and information or hearing from upcoming guests, you can follow our social medias at the Sideline Live, which are linked in the description box of the episode. If you do have any guest suggestions or topics you would like to have covered, you can send us a message on social media or email thesidelinelive@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one.